Well, on behalf of the City of Ames, I'd like to welcome everybody today for this very exciting move as we are making a very gigantic step toward clean energy with our Ames Municipal Electric Utility. Sorry, we can't compete with the noise back here, but we're told to have loud voices. Ironically, it was 120 years ago when just shy of 300 citizens of Ames voted yes to establish a coal-fired electric utility because kerosene lamps were becoming passé, and there was a need to have light from 5 p.m. to midnight. Look where we have come in the meantime. So today we are very excited to be transferring from coal, retiring coal as a method, and going to the much more environmentally sound use of natural gas. Fortunately, I can also say that we are still maintaining the environmentally sound use of refuse-derived fuel as we keep our lights turned on. So, but most exciting about all of this is the fact that this transition that we are just about to see today will reduce our carbon footprint by none less than 40%. What a landmark this is. So here to tell us how we have gotten to this stage, or to walk us through how we've gotten to this stage, is Kathy Brown, who has chaired the URAB Advisory Committee. I'm always a little tongue-tied when I need to spell out, so I won't spell out what URAB stands for. But basically, it is a group of citizens that very generously volunteer their time to work with the electric municipal utility in order to bring us to this point to advise the City Council on what our next steps ought to be. And so here to do that is the chair of URAB, Kathy Brown.
Well, I'll start out by saying I was very pleased when I read the talking points that Ann was the one that was supposed to define what URAB was, because it's very cumbersome, and now I get to do it. But it really is the Electric Utility Operations Review and Advisory Board. Today I'm going to refer to it as the board, just for simplicity. The board is a volunteer group, as Ann mentioned, and we have the privilege of being citizens that can help advise the electric utility and City Council on issues or circumstances that are changes in how the electric utility operates. We advise on rates as well as major capital and maintenance projects. We did have the privilege of making the recommendation to convert to natural gas, and we really considered that pretty significant. The reliance on coal and that fuel source as part of the energy match to our refuse-derived fuels component was significant as we dealt with how waste would be incorporated, how our regular waste would be incorporated into the utility, and what adjustments would have to be made. We spent months kind of getting up to speed on the significant changes of the federal regulations and to make the best decisions for the community. And we also weighed the pros and cons for each option as we considered natural gas as the best way to go. Additionally, we had the privilege of working with Alliant Energy and enhancing that relationship as part of contracting our own new pipeline, and which posed a challenge to completing the conversion on time, because all of the pipeline to this location had to be upsized in order to serve this transition. Next, I'd like to introduce Don Combe, the Director of Ames Electric Services. Don has been the Director of the utility for more than 10 years. And I'd like to acknowledge that Don and his staff have been responsive to the board's request for additional information through all of this, the decisions, and they've provided us with many explanations as we contemplated the options. So thank you, Don.
Good morning, everyone. Maybe on TV you can't hear the sound, but I know everybody here can hear that sound, and it reminds me, in growing up, I got to go to a lot of farms, and Hog farms particularly stunk, and I'd say, oh, what's that smell? And they'd say, that's the smell of money. Well, today, that's the sound of money. You're hearing a lot of gas running through the pipeline. On behalf of the staff of the City of Ames Electric Services, I want to thank you for attending our recognition event. Both the Ames City Council, and there are several past and present members of the City Council in attendance today, thank you for coming, and the URAB, which again, we have some past and present members of URAB here today too, have been completely supportive in this conversion. Staff has come before the groups a lot since 2012 when we first looked at should we stay on coal or should we convert to natural gas. We started that with the original study and have gone back to them on countless times talking about the different things that we need and some of the changes that are going on. And we still go back today with some of the things that we're finding. As you can imagine, with the newest plant that's here is already 33 years old, unforeseen issues kind of develop as you open that up. So this has led to some change orders and some ability for us to adjust, which both URAB and the council have been extremely supportive of. So, what does it take to convert a coal plant to natural gas? Simply stated, it takes a lot of smart, intelligent, and dedicated individuals. So we've had an engineering firm on hand, we've had several contractors. However, we've had a lot of staff involved, again, both past and present. Those attending today, I know Brian Trower's here. He's the Assistant Electric Services Director and also Project Lead. We've had, I see Dan Morris in the group. He's one of our instrument and control technicians. And I'll say a little bit more about some of what the power plant has done. Mike Brown, Phil Schindel have worked in the power plant for years and years and years. And there's others not associated directly with electric, but I know Resource Recovery, and I'll touch on that in a second too, is also here attending today. So I gotta say, I personally was pleased. No, I was proud of basically how many of the power plant staff got intimately involved with this conversion. So yes, we had contractors that came in and worked, but when there were issues that were found, when there were things that needed to be corrected, we didn't leave that just to the consultants, didn't just to the contractors. We actually had our city staff involved in finding the solution and implementing it. So as we go down the road, I'm pleased to see that our staff inside the power plant is going to probably be the best trained on this new equipment than we've had in years. So I'm very proud of that. In simplest terms, what is this power plant? Well, I usually go into the control room and say, how's it going? And they said, we're making steam. So for those of you who don't typically work in a power plant, I'll break it down into its simplest components. We burn stuff to boil water, to make steam, to put it in a generator to make electricity. That's everything that I learned in college in my 4 years. That's how a power plant works. Our focus with this particular conversion was to replace coal with natural gas. In reality, no easy feat. Contractors did replace the burners in the boiler. They piped to bring the gas to those burners and then added the controls to make it work. Given the age of the plant, however, work on the turbine was included in the scope so that we could basically modernize it. We were dealing with a lot of old mechanical pieces of equipment and we wanted to bring that into basically the 21st century. So basically we updated some of the control systems and we did a complete replacement of what's called the distributive control system. What I would refer to as the brains of the whole system. It tells everything how it's working and it can tell it if it's sick, if there's something that's going on. Now I don't want to make light of this accomplishment. You say, all right, you just put in some new equipment, that's great. But if you think about it, the system prior to this conversion was Windows 95. How many of you have a computer sitting on your desk still running Windows 95? Imagine all of the changes that have occurred. And another accomplishment was the replacement of the cooling towers. I was going to try to have a sample of the old wood structure just to show you how small and thin and worn that was. But I think it's still sitting in Bob's office. Oh, Bob threw it away. Yeah, we threw all of ours away too. But we've converted all of that to what once was wood is now fiberglass. The city last burned coal on April 24th of this year. Unit 8 is operating today on natural gas and refuse-derived fuel. For those who don't know, refuse-derived fuel is a fancy name for processed garbage. And we get this processed garbage from across the country. It's taken to our city's resource recovery facility, and again, people like Bill and Mark, John are here from resource recovery, and it's without them we wouldn't be able to use that fuel to create electricity for our customers. We're not completely done with the plant conversion, as Unit 7 today is undergoing its conversion from coal to natural gas. However, today, that's not a coal train. However, today we've reached a milestone by discontinuing the use of coal. One last point. So what does this cost? Well, let me throw out a few numbers. The original cost in the capital improvements project was based on our first engineering study. We were thinking it would cost $26 million for the plant conversion and about $17 million to bring a gas line here. With some of the cost-cutting measures and with working with Alliant on a natural gas pipeline, the project is currently running closer to about $26 million. No small feat, and we're doing that on behalf of our customers and doing what's right by the environment. Today, to help control those costs, the city's entered into contracts for natural gas, so we bought the commodity for a number of years going forward. We've locked in that price, so we're not handling the variability. We've locked in a contract for the transport of gas, both through the major pipeline that runs across the state, and we've also entered into a delivery contract with Alliant. One of the considerations that was needed in looking at the conversion of the plant is there wasn't enough infrastructure here at the site to deliver enough natural gas to operate it. The infrastructure to move that much gas simply did not exist anywhere in Ames. I've even heard that had we run this plant, we would have used approximately the same amount of gas that the entire rest of the city of Ames uses. Absent Iowa State, I know they're burning gas there too. In the end, the city was able to avoid building its only nearly 20-mile pipeline and worked with Alliant to come up with a better solution. Basically, it was Alliant or Interstate Power and Light. They allowed us to share in a project that they were developing. To me and to the city, it was a win-win-win situation. It was a win for the city, win for City of Ames Electric. I think it was a win for Alliant, and more so, it was a win for you, both the electric and the gas customers here in town. I think that it's good, and that I want to transition at this particular point and allow Alliant, Joel Schmidt, Vice President, I'm going to say that again. I'm introducing Joel Schmidt, Vice President of Regulatory Affairs for Alliant Energy. Joel.
Thank you, Don. Also thank you, Mayor Campbell and Kathy, for those remarks. It's hard to not key in on the progress that this is about. I was thinking through your remarks, I actually grew up on a small farm in eastern Iowa. One summer I worked for a hog farmer, so I saw a very direct linkage between that smell and what at that point was a pretty important paycheck for me. Think how far we've come. We talked about when this plant was put forward. I had the privilege last week of being on a panel that followed Secretary Muniz, who I know gave the commencement speech here last weekend at ISU. And I recalled, I've never grown up without ethanol. It was called gasohol when I was 16 years old and put in your car. And I remember my dad, for the farm tractors, we would buy the O-haul of it and put it into our vehicles. Iowa's always been about the resources and about progress, and it's great to see Ames being a leader in this again and in many other ventures. So thank you for letting us be part of this. At Alliant Energy, we are strengthening the communities that we serve through thoughtful investments that create jobs and help drive economic growth and development. As has been mentioned, this pipeline is one of our most recent examples here in Ames and Story County. In the past 3 years, we've invested nearly $30 million to expand gas in this area. This has led to energy benefits for a number of our customers, Iowa State was able to increase their natural gas power consumption. Lincoln Way Energy was able to convert to using natural gas in their process, so they could get a win-win of not only cleaner energy, but more effective energy for their production. DuPont will operate their new plant on natural gas. And now, as we're here today, the city of Ames will generate power with natural gas. This multi-million-dollar project stretches just under 5 miles, and it has 10 to 12-inch pipe to deliver that for all of these customers. I need to thank all the trades and all the companies that were involved in this. A number of trades worked on the project with numerous specialized contractors and skill sets, such as Civil Design Advantage, a Grimes firm that did the survey work, Midwest Fence, an Iowa company that fenced in a lot of our equipment and helped with the safe construction of the project, Hall Tile, local company that repaired farm tile that was disturbed during the construction process. We brought in a specialized company that runs boring machines to lay the pipe without having to dig a trench. Again, economic and environmental impacts. We had another that checks welds on the steel pipe with specialized x-ray equipment to make sure they are safe and reliable, and that this will be serving not only us, but for generations to come. As we know, construction projects bring immediate economic development with them. At the peak of our construction, there were about 60 workers on site for the gas pipeline expansion. These workers come to your community, often stay for much of this project, staying in hotels, apartments, eating in your restaurants, shopping in your shops. In closing, thank you for your partnership. You're doing here is great, and I know we will all reap benefits from this for decades to come. Thank you.
All right, at this time, I would ask that the mayor and Joel come over. We're going to symbolically turn the valve to bring natural gas to the power plant. Keep in mind, they better not touch any of the real equipment. Again, I'd like to thank everybody who took time out of their busy day to come and share this big milestone with City of Ames Electric Services. It is important for us to have gotten to this far, and we're happy that we did. I would ask that those who can stick around for a little bit, we have some light refreshments inside the building. So please join us, and if you have any questions or want to talk or hear a little bit more about our project, feel free to catch up with one of the people from Electric Services. Thank you again for coming.